appreciate everybody jumping on this call with us today. It's not quite what we're used to doing, but I think we all got to get used to doing business a little bit differently moving forward for a while. So thank you very much for being on the call. Dr. Medina and I are both available. We're excited as we get prepared right now to get to Orlando. I think every player has taken this challenge of hey, let's finish this season strong. Let's get to the playoffs. Let's try to do whatever we can do to have the very best conclusion to our season. It was interrupted. By the time we start playing again, it'll be longer than an off season in the NBA, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a big gap, and I think everybody recognizes it's not something that we've ever had in the NBA before. And so, how can we best move forward? We're building our entire platform for this journey ahead is by just being the most grateful team to be going to Orlando, the hardest working team to go to Orlando, to be one of the most connected teams going to Orlando. And I think we have that. We have great character. We have exciting young players. We have some excellent veteran leadership, and we have nothing to lose. We're going there. We're going to swing hard. We're going to play hard. We're going to make our fans proud, and we're really excited about this opportunity.
Again, we'll take questions if you can use the hand raise feature or message me on here. I know Chris Miller has a question because he just tested. So Chris Miller, go ahead.
Appreciate that, Scott. Tommy, Dr. Medina, hope you guys are well. Hope your families are well. Quick question about protocols. Dr. Medina, I understand the Toronto Raptors are already down in Fort Myers. I guess they're going through a pre-bubble. Are you in consultation with the league in terms of what they have experienced so far about being away from their families and going through practices and getting ready for what they're about to embark on the 30th of July?
Thanks for the question, Chris. In that particular sense, no. Don't have any information of how this particular team has set up and what they're doing. I pretty much understand, and NBA has done a great job dictating and creating all the protocols that we need to follow. They probably need to pretty much follow the same protocol we're doing here, with the difference that they do not sleep home and they're away from their families, as you mentioned. But in that regard, other than what we can all kind of understand, I don't have any particular details on that to share.
Fred, go ahead.
Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Mine is just for Tommy. We know that Davis Bertans is not going to be playing with you guys in Orlando, and I was just wondering if he was the only player that is assured you guys that he's not playing, if you expect anybody else not to play, and specifically on Bradley Beal, if he is playing, what is your guys' plan in terms of playing time for him and minutes monitoring, considering you've had so much time off?
Well, the first question with Davis, certainly, he's a very big piece of our team, and that was certainly something that he had given me a heads up plenty of time before. We discussed it with Coach. We brought it up, and we certainly support his reasons for not playing. And while he'll be missed, I'm really excited about the group that we have moving forward, and we know how much Davis means to this team moving forward. In terms of any other player has not given any indication whatsoever. We've had great workouts. We've got a great spirit going right now with this team as they're preparing for this journey, as I mentioned. With Bradley Beal, just like we're taking it with every single player, you've got to put yourself a little bit in our shoes. What we need to do to prepare to go to Orlando is be in Washington, D.C. right now and have a great day. And then tomorrow we get up and we do the same thing again. And we tie all those days together, and we get to July 7th, and we'll get on a plane, we'll get to Orlando, and we'll start that process again. I don't want to look too far ahead on any player. Certainly with Bradley, we're going to be very protective of him, but of all of our players. This is a different, unique ramp up. We've had lockouts in the NBA. We've had different times where guys were separated from basketball due to injury or something, but nothing where the entire league really has not played a game at all during this entire stretch, and really hasn't had the opportunity to practice as an NBA team used to practicing. So when you have such a unique time, you have to have a unique ramp up. And we're really relying on our performance staff and their advice on how to best ramp up. And we rely on them because they're the very best at what they do. And they've been great for us. So when I talk about Bradley Beal playing in Orlando, I've got to worry about Bradley Beal working out here as we get ready to go to Orlando, just like every other player, and where their level of fitness is, where their level of basketball shape is, and they're totally different. We came out of this, and I think Danny could verify this. We came out of the break, if you will, the COVID time off, pretty good shape. Cardiovascularly, everybody's in a good place. Weight-wise, everything's normal, but they haven't played basketball, and that's totally different. Yeah, the demand, the physical demand playing basketball is different than running on a treadmill, doing Peloton, doing workouts in your garage on Zoom. So we've got to allow for that, and we've got to build up. Right now, Bradley was in it today, had a wonderful workout. Fred probably wouldn't surprise you. He shot the lights out because that's what he does. It doesn't take NBA players very long to dial up and get back to where they were out on the floor in terms of workouts. But now we've got to string this together and hopefully get to Orlando, and we'll have basically 2 weeks to really get to 5-on-5 and practice, full practice. And again, that's going to be a ramp up too. And we're not going to go any faster than we're allowed to go. I promise. It's so tempting. I think a lot of teams are jumping in right now trying to figure out how can we shortcut this? How can we short circuit this system and get everybody out on the floor and do more and more and more? And I just feel strongly that's going to hurt us on the back end. We're going to predispose ourselves to injuries if we try to go any faster than what we're doing right now. And Danny and his staff have been fantastic laying out the roadmap for us. So I think that answers you. You asked a long question, so I gave you a long answer. Don't ask me another long question. I'll give you a shorter answer next time for it.
Thank you. DA, go ahead.
Hey guys, thanks for doing this. For both Dr. Medina and for Tommy, where will John Wall be while you all are in Orlando? Will he be in Miami? Will he be up here in DC? And who will he be working with while you're in Orlando? And what will he be doing?
Sure, I can answer the first part. He's not going to join us in Orlando. This is a very critical time for us with John. As you know, back in March, he was scrimmaging with our Go-Go. He was practicing with the Wizards, and he was in a pretty great place. And then this unfortunate time off happened, and he kind of had to go back. I'm not going to say to square one, but he definitely lost all the basketball gains that he had made. This kind of got pushed back because of all this. So without going to taking him to Orlando, he'll be down in Miami. He'll be back and forth in D.C. We have coaches that, we're not taking our entire coaching staff. The traveling party is 35 people. So we have coaches that will remain behind and coaches that will work with him. He's already on his off-season schedule. What he's doing is similar to last season or last off-season. John was working at a PT clinic supervised by our people. He's working with a weight strength and conditioning coach supervised by our people. And then we'll rotate through as we come from Orlando. Whenever that is, hopefully it's after a good run in the playoffs, but whenever that is, we'll certainly have people with him. But we have people with him now. And, the last thing I ever have to worry about is John Wall's work ethic. He's going to get after this. This is a very critical off season to him, DA. And I think he's got a very, very big chip on his shoulder, as you've had articles with him and he's discussed that with you. But certainly, I think he really wants to get back to playing basketball. As for why he's not going with us to Orlando, I think it certainly makes sense. He's got to focus on what he's got to do. But having somebody go into that bubble that's not going to play, that's just more people going into the bubble. I think everybody in the NBA is very cognizant of how important it is that we have a very, very small group of people in that bubble, and that everybody absolutely, as we go through the days that they go by, I don't think it's wise to have people that are in that would be around the team that aren't playing, just for the possibility that extra, exposure, whatever it would be over there. I think it's just wise for everybody. But certainly John, his leadership is felt every day. He's jumping in, he's texting guys, calling guys. He's been on Zoom calls with the team. as we're preparing for this. So we hear from him, we see him, and we know what he's doing. Danny, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would just add that this is his program is his continuation of the work that he's been doing here. He's been fantastic. He's been keeping his weight and being active during all this period. And this will be a continuation of the work and the plan that we've done for him. He's in permanent supervision with our team, coaches and PTs, athletic trainers, everyone. So yeah, we're gonna make sure that he has his body and his mind at the highest level for a safe and successful return when he comes back.
Dave Johnson.
Is it to be able to have some games with a young team, to be able to finish out some kind of season, given that it's a young team? How much of a factor is that, or how important is that to you?
Dave, I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question? Right before when you were talking, it kind of broke up on me.
That always happens to radio guys. They try to mute me. They've been trying to do it for years. But just the importance of being able to continue the season in some fashion, given that it's such a young team. You had so many players that were at a phase of their development where it was all shut down, and to be able, no matter what happens in Orlando, to be able to continue with some kind of basketball at this level.
Oh, it's huge. The opportunity for all of our young guys, for everybody on this roster, quite frankly, but certainly the young guys, this is a great, great chance. You got 8 more regular season games with a chance to get to the playoffs. These are pressure-packed games. And everybody, we made everybody, we've had several conversations, several Zoom calls to discuss how we're going to approach this. And I think we've really laid it out to each player what our expectations of them are. And really what it comes down to is just show improvement. Go down there, continue to build on what you did. You know, if you go back, Rui had 16 games that he returned from injury after he got hurt in Detroit. He came back against Golden State, played 16 games, was really kind of moving forward and was showing the progress that we'd seen prior to the injury. And then this kind of happened. So now we're coming out of this. Well, we have the same expectation of Rui that we had before in terms of, hey, build on that, build on your success, continue to get better. And that goes for every single young player, you know, from the players that we acquired at deadline all the way to the players that we drafted and players that we've signed and acquired. I think as you go across the roster, everybody has to show value. Everybody has to show us, why are you here and why should we keep you with the roster moving forward? And that's, you know, that's kind of one way to look at it, I guess. But the most important thing for us, Scotty's going to put them in positions to go out and perform. What did you do with your minutes? And how were you able to be productive? And that's kind of how we're going to judge everybody. I think this has been a great development year. You know, sometimes the scoreboard doesn't work in our favor, obviously, but if you go back and look, we had a lot of really games that we were right there in. We had some unfortunate injuries throughout the year, but overall, this whole year was always about player development, Dave. And I think, to your point, these last 8 games and beyond that, hopefully, it's going to be kind of an opportunity to see how far they've come. You know, without Davis, we're not looking to sign. We obviously we can talk about Jerry Grant in a minute, but we didn't sign somebody to replace Davis because that's not going to happen. There's not another shooter out there that has the green light quite like he does and has the range like he does. But what we're able to do is, okay, well, let's look at what Wagner and Rui and Bonga can do with those minutes, those shots that'll be available. And let's play a little bit differently. We're going to have to. But we also had the return of Thomas Bryant. You know, he had a stretch where he was out for injury. Now we have Thomas back in the lineup, and he's able to step out, hit threes too. So we can distribute Davis's minutes and shots amongst those people and see what they can do. And, you know, you always look at a great opportunity. Anytime you have NBA minutes, it's a great opportunity for a player to show what he can do.
Mark Stein.
Thank you, everybody, for doing this. It's very much appreciated. Dr. Medina, you know, Tommy talked so much about the ramp up. And so just from a sports science perspective, I was wondering if you could kind of walk us through just your vision in general. I know it's probably more player specific, player to player, but just in general, how do you tackle this kind of ramp up when these guys have had so much time away from basketball, so much more time off than they're accustomed to.
Yeah. Like Tommy said before, this is kind of a unprecedented situation, meaning that normally we don't get players out of this time off and without having exposure to the specificity of basketball movements and basketball in general, right? So our main approach here, it was just to get them in, see where they were physically, meaning body composition initially. We know body composition is a good marker of fitness in that sense, like Tommy mentioned as well. Most of our guys were in pretty good shape in that sense. So that allowed us to have some reintroduction for them in terms of contact with the ball, contact on court. Initially, you basically just progress in some variables that we look at, like distance, and always we have the reference of what each player does in games, and we have ranges for them. So what we tried is just to build up a percentage on a weekly basis so by the time we get in 4 weeks, when we get to our games, our players have had exposure to those ranges that they're going to be exposed during the games. As you mentioned, this is done in individual basis, and we take in account distance, we take in account high speed running, change of directions, different parameters that give us a sense of how much stress or load a player is taking from a particular practice, and how that compares to the final goal that is going to be the game-like load, I would say. So using those variables, we have defined weekly workouts for these players, and this is how the ramp-up has progressed. In that sense, there is an added layer to it, which is aside of the on-court, what is the strength, and merely the conditioning piece, like how you're exposed to acceleration, decelerations, a little bit of more of the conditioning. Some of them have been done on a bike, just doing intervals, some short running. Now we're introducing full court running. So basically it's just helping our players getting back to that position where they can compete. I think it's really, really important to keep in mind that it's not only the time that they have been at home. We have been, during this ramp up, just doing individual workouts. We're in phase 2, only one player, one coach, and one ball. Now we're allowed to use 2 coaches, but basically there is no physical contact. There is a major piece that we're missing still that certainly will impact our players, which is all the cognitive load of being on court in competition, surrounded by other players, having to make tactical decisions that will also impact their perception of fatigue. Not to mention contact in some positions, particularly centers, where you can get ready for contact in the weight room. You can get ready to contact in during your ramp up, but eventually you need exposure and a specific exposure to that stimulus. So that will be happening once we get in Orlando. That hopefully we can get back into group practices, and we'll have a short period of 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 3-4 weeks before we face our first game. Which with the base that we've been able to build here, I think we're going to be in a fairly good position to perform well and in a safe way.
Chase Hughes.
Thanks for doing this, guys. Hope you're doing well. Over these past few weeks, obviously, it's been unprecedented. You guys trying to contain the coronavirus at the practice facility. How has that process gone for you so far? And have you guys been able to, maintain all negative tests, or have there been any positive tests?
Yeah, in terms of test results, I will refer to the communication that the league is doing now, and their direction in communications. They refer to the results on overall league earlier this week, and in that sense, I feel that we've been able to do a really good job. To be honest, and as I mentioned before, there's been a lot of effort in our side with our medical team with the support of the star ID specialist, but also the league has provided really good recommendations. They come up with a protocol that, like I said, we internally shaped up. But basically, and this is not gonna be surprising. Basically, it's just social distancing and keeping the space clean. Like simple things like keeping all the doors open so we minimize the touching points, cleaning shoes, cleaning phones, cleaning keys, like everything that comes into the facility is being cleaned. There is no touching points that are shared. Those spaces like the weight room where there is sustained contact, they're always clean after each use. Every player and every coach use gloves, masks at all times. So I would say it's as complicated as simple as we're seeing in our daily life. So basically, like I said, cleaning has been paramount. I think we've really achieved a low risk environment for our players and staff with the help of everyone involved. But like I said, basically face masks, hands well sanitized, and social distancing are paramount. We don't even share the balls. Like every player has been assigned balls that they're clean after every practice. They have different spots. The locker room is closed. All the places where we could get into some sort of interaction or could lead into trouble, they have been shut down. So essentially, I would describe it as going back to the roots, right? Players come in dressed for practice. They finish their practice. They grab their takeaway food, and they go home and shower at home and do all the stuff. So that's pretty much how we're handling.
I would just piggyback on what Danny's saying. The building, the people that have had to do this layout every single day, the cleaning, the constant update, and the constant communication from Sashi Brown and his group all the way through all of everybody with Monumental Sports has been fantastic. Because we were working with the Mystics were in our building shortly, and now they're working out at Cap One. But we had to have a quarantine court at Cap One when people came back to market. So there was so much adjustments and communication that needed to happen, and we set up a fantastic setup over at the arena as well. And I think that just goes back to show with the Monumental family, we had a pretty big task in front of us. Everybody pitched in, and it's been a great outcome for us. You know, it's so unusual. The first workout, you come in and your coach is wearing a mask and gloves. And now it's just normal. It's part of what we're doing. Everybody's used to it, and we're getting great workouts. We added a second coach to the court, more shots for the player, a little bit more intense workout, and then next week we'll continue to ramp up. So, you know, we can talk about how it used to be, and that's not going to help anything. We got to talk about this is what we have to deal with, and this is how we're going to get better, and just keep looking forward. I think that's the best way we've been found the most success is just let's look forward. Let's continue to get better every day and get used to this. This is the new normal right now, and let's everybody get your arms around it. Guys are coming in, getting tested. It's normal now. Everything that was strange before when it first starts, it's all part of our day, and that's how it's going to be, and it's going to be that way every day in Orlando. So we're getting our arms around what's ahead.
Candace?
All right, thanks, fellas. Question for you, Tommy. On Friday, Florida hit nearly 9,000 daily new cases of COVID-19, and they've been spiking since Memorial Day. I'm just wondering, is there a basic level of concern going to that state? Although the bubble, in theory, is supposed to protect you guys and the players, is there a concern going into this hotspot?
Well, again, I think we're following the NBA's lead, and everything that's been laid out to us from the NBA, from the union, from the health experts, across every single platform is to put the very best situation environment around these players. And we look at the numbers just like everyone's looking at the numbers. This isn't about basketball. It's about safety for everybody, right? But we feel very confident that this is the best information, the best situation that we're going to, the best environment, the safest environment. and or elsewise we won't do it. The NBA won't allow that to move forward. So we're going to continue to follow their lead and all the information that we're given. I know we're looking at numbers, but I don't know how many people, when we're parsing numbers and looking at different things, which county it is, how many cases resulted in X, those kinds of things. I rely on Danny, his group, to really bring us the most up-to-date information. But everything that we really truly do, we take our lead from what the NBA is giving to us, and that's shared with the union. And everybody, we're still proceeding as directed and proceeding as normal. So I don't see any issues today moving forward, unless somebody tells us differently. That's what we're prepared to do.
And as a quick follow-up, besides John, is everyone practicing right now?
Yes, we have a couple players still to arrive. Everybody does not have to be here by July 1. And I wouldn't use practice, Candace. Everybody is working out. So we've had a great group. Again, we have a couple extra coaches as we have to prepare, in case there is a situation where one coach can't go or something. We've had a great group. The head coach has not been able to work with the players yet. Now he can observe. Well, that's going to change. So we just kind of eye the calendar, and we'll be able to integrate more people and more players out on the floor. But right now, there's no practicing. These are just workouts.
Steve Bueno.
Tommy, thank you very much for doing this. Sorry to ask a basketball question, but what do you make of just the opportunity, in addition to kind of the development process, opportunity to qualify for the playoffs, and what that kind of experience would mean for a young team?
Well, I don't want to look too far ahead, not trying to put pressure. We're trying to manage expectations. But as we said, when everybody asks, hey, what the question, right? When there's 22 teams that are brought to Orlando, what are we there to do? Well, we're there to win games. That's our job as NBA players, as NBA staff, to get out there on the floor and produce a result. And with that opportunity to get to a play-in, to get to the playoffs, that's all our players ask for. And I would kind of reverse the script a little bit. If we didn't have this opportunity, our next game, regular season game, would be in December and possibly late December. So the idea of not playing basketball that long, I don't even want to think about that. For us, it's all about gratitude that we do have this opportunity to train, to get ready, to go there, to have another training camp, to play the 8 games, to get that opportunity to go through the playoffs. That's a tremendous opportunity for us. And again, going back to the young guys, you usually can find out how a player truly is and how they respond to pressure situations. Well, this is a pressure situation. We kind of look at it, it's a little bit of a combination of an AAU tournament and an NCAA tournament kind of all rolled together. And Shabazz Napier and I were having this conversation like, hey, we've got to take these games and kind of have that type of mentality. And, I'm looking at Shabazz, realizing he has two championship rings from college. So he has that mentality. He's experienced it before, and every one of our players kind of put their arms around this, how exciting it is, like how important each game is. We don't want to get, again, I'm not going back, Steve, to putting pressure on wins or losses or anything other than let's get better. But certainly we're going there to win games. We're going there to try to make the playoffs. That's 100% our goal.
Hey, Tommy, thanks for doing this. I was just wondering on the process of your travel list of 35. I sense that a lot of teams it's been tough for them to cut down to the list. I was wondering what your process has been. What have you prioritized during this time for this list, and if it's been decided who you guys are bringing? Well,
we've for us, you want to take as many healthy players as possible. We haven't zeroed in on the final list is still kind of a work in progress. Roughly, we're going to take, anywhere 15, 16 players. Obviously, Davis isn't going to go. We're replacing him. John won't go. So then we're going to probably have 8 coaches, 7 medical, and then we have some additional positions. Myself, I will go. We have a security person. We have an athletic trainer. We have PR's got a couple folks going. So, who those people are going to be just kind of depends on how the next couple weeks go. We're assuming everybody that we have kind of listed, hey, we're going to be healthy and we'll go. But you have to be able to think logically that if there's something that doesn't work, if somebody say they contracted the virus, whatever, that you have somebody in place and ready to go just in case. So to say these are our 35 today, no, we have to turn in a list on July 1, and we'll look at that on July 1. But the way that we determined it, we're going to over-index on medical staff to make sure that we have the best health care possible for our players as they're going through training camp. And then we have the best recovery strategies, the best performance strategies, and the best way to monitor their effort every single day. And so, like I said, Danny's staff will be represented by 7 people there. And I think that's probably comparing notes with most of the people around the league. That's about what everybody's doing. And then with coaches, while we're there, we're trying to win games. Every coach has their scout, but we also have player development pieces that are going to be there every single day too. So we have a lot of player development coaches that will go with us.
Matt Paris.
Thanks for doing this. Tommy, I guess just if, you guys are playing games and things aren't going the way you want to, will players be shut down at all? Or has there been any conversations and maybe focusing more on the development side?
Matt, that's a good question. I think that's something more we'll know once we get into the games and how things are going, how everybody's health is. And even if we're winning a bunch of games and guys are falling off, then obviously we're going to have to monitor minutes either way. Right? So we're going to be very cautious all throughout training camp and as the games go. I think that the games will dictate, certainly to your point, if it's a situation where guys are falling, we're going to monitor their minutes and prevent injury at any cost. But that doesn't mean we're going to shut anybody down. I don't think that's our desire whatsoever. These games, like I said, there's a very valuable evaluation periods. If you're healthy enough and you can play, you're going to play. And I think the players feel the same way.
Thanks. And then just a quick follow-up for Dr. Medina. Just how confident are you in your ramp-up plan to, have guys? It's a lot of games in 13 days, 8 and 13. So just having guys sustain over that stretch as well, even non-related to COVID.
Yeah, well, we know it's pretty tough, and we've seen that in Europe. Those team sports that they're going ahead of us, including basketball. I mean, injuries. We're doing our best, and we're gonna do as much as we can to avoid them. But we know they're gonna happen. In that sense, I'm confident that we're making the right decisions, and we're trying to position our players and help them to get in the best possible situation to confront the demands of the games that we're going to have. The density of calendar, this has been an ongoing discussion around NBA and around team sports forever, right? We know that density of games is linked with an increase of injury. My only doubt, I would say, or benefit of doubt is we never had a situation of density of calendar with no traveling. And even the back-to-backs are going to be looking differently when you just finish the game and go home, right? There are going to be a lot of. I think that's gonna make a change in what we know somehow. But to your question, I think there is no way to have a right answer right now, except just the monitoring the progression on a daily basis. Like I said, have the reference values for what we know and similar periods in the calendar that we had in the past, and try to mimic that. We need to be wise in terms of how we use our players, how we rest them in game and in between the games. But most importantly is how much we can help them to grow and get back into their best self before we get into those games. We're going to have a chance to have probably friendly games as well, and how those will help us to get into this basketball competitive level will dictate how the outcome in terms of injuries are. There's some time frames that we cannot override, biological times. Like it is known that a tendon needs 6 weeks to adapt, right? So that's pretty much time that we're going to have to be at that high level, right? So, we have a lot of constraints. We're ready to provide solutions to, whatever issues we encounter. And like I said, we need to go like we've been going throughout the first day, almost day by day, analyzing the data that we have and making the best possible decisions for the calendar that we have to face.
Apologies if I mispronounced the name, but Miyahi Yoko. Okay, we'll move on to Ben Standing. No, Ben.
Thanks. I'm here. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Tommy, for doing this. Some of my colleagues have kind of asked some of the questions about kind of what you guys are looking to take away from this. I'm just curious about to drill down on that a little bit. Obviously, this is everything about what we're dealing with is unique, but specifically this chance to get back on the court with your young guys and see kind of what they've been doing the last few months and maybe get that last taste of what they might be going into next year. I'm wondering if you can say if there's anything specific you're looking for. I'm just as an example, Rui playing some small ball 5 or Mo stepping outside or whatever it may be. If there's some specific things that you can identify that you're kind of really looking to see from your young guys out of these games.
Well, you can go by each guy and kind of just look at where they ended in March, what their last game, where their statistics were through the year to that. And it's going to be hard for some of those guys to just reach those numbers alone would be sufficient for me. We have high expectations of Rui. We have high expectations of Bogner and Bonga and really every person that's going to get opportunities to play consistent minutes in the next 8 games. We're going to be looking for them to it's really about that competitiveness and that fire to play and the ability to really execute the game plan, what's asked of them by coach. Because there's going to be a lot of distractions as it is. This is going to be a very unique opportunity to observe the human condition because it couldn't be more different. To play games in front of no fans, to play in one city with all the NBA teams in one place, these are things, this is once in a lifetime opportunity. And we have to help our guys prepare for that as we are preparing for them physically, but also talk about the mental approach and how they're going to go about that. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. We acquired Jerome Robinson, we acquired Shabazz Napier at deadline, and both of them are players that we kind of feel, we absolutely feel comfortable with them moving forward. But we want to see Jerome be able to do more on the defensive end. That's where he really thrives at in transition player. But hey, can he extend his 3-point range? Can he get some scoring off the bench for us that we can count on? I think he can do those things. He was on the way to proving that. He had a game winner for us. His confidence was up high. Now we got to get back to where it was. Looking at Shabazz, Shabazz can play off the ball, on the ball. He can play with Ish. He can play with Bradley. We see him being able to complement playing with John next year, behind John. A lot of opportunities for him to mix and match, maybe have a little 4 or 5 guard rotation in the seasons to come. But with Shabazz, he kind of proved he thrived as a starter. He really helped us with scoring, and he also creates a little bit on defensive end. Does a good job of stopping penetration. I think one player we haven't really had a chance to evaluate this season with the Wizards because we really spent a lot of time with the Go-Go is Admiral Schofield. And without Davis playing, there's going to be an opportunity at some point for Admiral to show what he can do as a stretch 4, as a 3, somebody that goes out and lays great screens, is a very good physical player. We can give him an opportunity to play. He played over 1,300 minutes in the Go-Go. Those will help him for next year. But now here's an opportunity. Can he make the most of it if it's thrown his way? So I think we already touched on Bonga and Bogner. I think Thomas Bryant coming back off the injury, Ben, that's somebody that, he was our starting center. We re-signed him this summer. We have high expectations of him. And this season, I think he would give himself an incomplete grade. So I think he wants to finish on a very high note. And, he's end line to end line. He's one of the faster players in the league at his position. He can stretch it out and bang threes. He can get inside and really put a hurt on people right at the rim. So we have high expectations of him as well. So I hope I'm not leaving anybody off the top of my head, but I think to answer your question, each one of these players has something to play for. And we have to do a great job of managing their expectation of what it is that we're looking for before they go in. So nobody goes out there and tries to do something, A, they're not capable of doing, B, that we're not expecting from them. So I think with that in mind, Coach does a good job of giving guys the freedom out on the floor. He gives everybody opportunities to get out and show what they can do. And we'll build off of that.
Thanks, Tommy.
Yes, sir.
We'll go back to Yoko. He had some trouble getting on before, but I think he should be there now. Still no?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, apologies.
Yeah, I have a question to Dr. Medina. NBA teams have been paying attention to mental health aspect these years. What is the challenge that you have in this unique environment of bubble? And if you can share what's your plan to cope with that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Obviously, the issues that we have to assess has changed from the beginning in terms of expectative and everything around the players. We had a pretty solid platform this year, led by Derek Anderson, and basically what we've been doing since day one. Our mental health and psychologists have been available to the players at all time. They have been interacting. I will tell you, and since there is a lot of, and we promote obviously this private space for them to work, but this general anxiety of what's going to happen in terms of returning. Some of them have been away from their family. It raises questions like what impact this is going to have in future contracts. At this point, some of those issues were probably the main ones that we had to face initially. Now all the questions are more into, how are we going to handle the fact that we're going to be 7 weeks locked down with no contact at all with the families, and the high risk of injury that we're going to face as well, and what potential impact that will have in their career. In that sense, and to support and promote openness, that one of the main issues that is acknowledged in all what it has to do with the mental health, it's to find the space and privacy and some element that sparks that connection. So basically what we've been doing is just throughout putting together some videos, short videos on different topics during all this period, at least twice a week, that have really sparked this need and establish and build and bridge this need of communication in our players with our mental health team. So in that sense, it's ongoing. It's been one of the main pillars of our performance support throughout all this time, and we're pretty happy with the outcome and the usage that the players have been doing of our mental health colleagues. So, like I said, in that sense, basically, existential, I would say it will define the first phase of the focus for the issues that we had to face, and now they're most professionally and personally and performance driven. That's basically what we're working right now.
Thank you.
Clinton Yates.
What's up, guys? Thank you for the time. Between existentially and performance, though, is just socially in real time. There's like the fun factor. Do you guys have any plan for how you're going to interact with each other when you're not playing basketball, just to keep people in a frame of mind? I'm serious, that's going to keep it real at a point where it's worth, their time in some ways. Thanks.
I'm smiling. We're talking about that right now. As a matter of fact, we have a conference call tonight. The NBA, Disney, and the union. I think there's 5 teams that are going to be on the call. They're going to do this over the next 3 days, Mr. Yates, and show exactly the environment that we're about to enter. See each team will see their hotels, see what's on the property. A lot of times, I think organically things grow when you get there, and everybody kind of has the different things that they like to do. Some people like to go play golf. Some people are at the pool. Some people are out and about. But normally, I don't recall having a lot of free time during the season. When you're in between games and you're moving on to the next game, most guys like to sleep after games. They like to sleep after practice. So we are going to have a lot of team bonding opportunities. We're looking at different things that the players would like to do. We're open to suggestions, certainly, but we got to get a kind of a good inventory of what all is going to be available. We have a pretty close-knit team, and a lot of the young guys, a lot of it's based on the time especially when we're traveling. Obviously, we got a lot of foodies on the team. We got a lot of guys that love to go to movies. There is bowling there supposedly, so there's going to be some stuff that I think Disney's teeing up as well. First-run movies, things like that. I'm sure we'll be all over that. But it's an ongoing discussion of what we can best do to serve our players to bond. A lot of times, again, I go back to the word organic. It has to grow. When we get there, we'll see it. But our players, I feel very strongly about the leadership Bradley Beal brings to this group, and all the young guys, and the way that they all kind of follow him. And he'll kind of, on the road, normally he'll take guys out to dinner. He'll take the team out once or twice, whatever, on a longer road trip. Those are things they're used to doing. So once we get a pretty good idea of what the property holds and what opportunities are there, certainly they can take advantage of some of those things. But we'll also probably try to normalize it as much as possible. What would we normally do on the road? And after a game, guys always get together. Well, after the game there, you're not showering. You're getting on a bus and go back to the hotel. So we have to figure certain things of recovery and stuff together, and how that's going to be. So some of that we still have to discover. But it's a great question, and I'm really excited about how our guys will manage that coming together. We're going to make any opportunity that they feel is strong that they want to do. We'll make sure we do those things. But I don't want to be the activities director laying it out. I'm not the one playing. These guys have to dictate that.
Thanks, guys.
I'm going to be a cruise director, I promise you.
Okay, we got a few more minutes. We'll try and get through everybody who has not asked a question yet. Brianna?
Okay. Hello, everyone. I wanted to say first to the staff and to the company of Wizards, you guys did a great job with Juneteenth and with the logo change. It looks really good. So this question is for Dr. Medina. So I know, Tommy, you were just kind of talking about within the bubble that you guys aren't really sure of the logistics of it within the bubble, but will there be like separate areas for teams to work out or practice, or is it going to be all within one area? I mean, it seems like you guys are doing a really good job with cleaning and, using separate balls and everything. But then when you're in this environment with the other teams, I mean, how much can you control that and all of that?
Yeah, I think I will give you a first kind of overview, and I'm pretty sure Tommy can pitch in on the setup that we're going to find down there. I'll tell you, the difference down there is going to be, like you said, right now we're one-to-one. We're individuals that try to not have contact with each other. So if we can, if in case you have a positive, you can easily isolate that particular player or coach. When we get down there, and due to the testing program that NBA has been carrying on since last week, we're going to be pretty sure that everyone is not infected, and the more time that we're going to spend in the bubble, the better is going to get. We're going to be undergoing daily testing, which basically allows to an early detection of asymptomatic patients, and again, not to have to shut down a lot of people. That implies that social distancing, it will be present to a degree. To your question, hotels are going to be shared. There's going to be, and there is authorized contact in between teams, but again, wearing masks, respecting physical distancing, and basic rules that they're no different than what you need to do in a day-to-day basis. There are some restricted areas once the teams are practicing. We're assigned to different courts on a rotation basis, as I understand, in different times. And those times it's going to be only our team in that particular weight room or gym, and everything will be deep clean after each team uses it. So in a sense, I would say the dynamic will be pretty similar. It will be blending more and more our social interaction as a group. As the more we interact, the time goes by, will be considered as a family, household members, right? So as we live together and we spend more time together. So I would say probably, and a lot of it is still ongoing. It will evolve organically over the weeks, and we're going to have more restrictions in the first 2-3 weeks that we're going to have by the time that we're competing. But that's basically how it's going to look. There's some different hotels for different teams, some limitations in the interactions, but yeah, from a medical perspective, it all comes down to basically the same principles.
And
I
so
don't know, Tommy, oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Just really quick. So when they come into the bubble, they get tested right when they come in, and then when they leave, they get tested, or how does that work?
The process is we're being tested every other day right now. We're flying on the 7th, and we're going to be tested on the 5th, 6th, and at arrival on the 7th. Once we're tested in the 7th, we're going to be in our rooms for 36 hours until we get the results of the first test. Then a second test is going to take place 24 hours apart. And if both tests are negative, we're going to be allowed to go out after these 36 hours. So, I would say that the entrance in the bubble is going to be a unique experience, being 36 hours straight in the room. And I think we're getting ready for that to make it a more palatable experience, I would say, as much as we can. And after that, we're going to be tested daily. So the level of, I would say, risk is going to be diminished. And that's what is ultimately what is going to allow people to interact safely. And like I said, it's going to definitely allow to have an early detection capability of any symptomatic case.
I would piggyback off what Danny is saying. Again, we're waiting for our practice schedule, but we're going to have 4 teams share one facility. And we have a 3-hour practice window to use the weight room, to use the training room, to have practice. So we're going to have to be really diligent about how we map out our day to be the most efficient. But one thing I think this is going to present that's a challenge, and one thing I'm excited about, some of the people on our roster are used to national team type of play, national team type of format. We're going to have practices at 9 in the morning. We're going to have practices at 7:30 at night. I think 5 of our games are before 4 o'clock or at 4 o'clock. Those are very unusual start times, very unusual practice times. Those are things that we're going to have to adjust to. But we have a lot of players that have been in national programs, either with USA Basketball, with Basketball Germany, and certainly Team Japan. So there's some people that are going to be used to that, and that helps us a little bit ahead of time, that it's going to seem pretty normal to them. And we're going to have to get pretty friendly with each other as it's a smaller group. We're going to have a lot of people helping out on the floor. Our coaches will take care of business there, but in terms of especially getting guys through the day, we're going to all have to pitch in and help people. But I appreciate the first part of your comment. And going back to what Clinton Yates had asked about, one very important thing that we'll be able to do in Orlando is continue our social justice platform. And our players will be free to really speak on issues that are important to them. We've done a great job here, and I cannot say enough about the contributions from Sashi Brown, from John Thompson III, Sashia Jones, everybody that had anything to do with our players, with the demonstration that they did last week with the Mystics, but also all the other events leading up to that, and certainly the months ahead of us, all the work that we have ahead of us. The players will have the freedom to do so many things in Orlando also, and continue to raise that platform. And then we look forward to hearing from them and their programs that we support 100%. And I think one thing that we continue to do is gain wisdom and get knowledge, get educated on what the issues exactly are and how we can best serve moving forward to impact change. if it's getting involved in getting the vote out, if it's getting involved in local government elections, how we can best educate everybody to the welfare of the whole, right? And this is a very, very big opportunity, and the NBA has supported that 100% for all of our players. And I think the Washington Wizards, the Washington Mystics specifically, have walked that walk, and they'll continue to, and they're challenging each other. We're holding all of us accountable to our actions moving forward. So I appreciate you pointing out about the T-shirt honoring Juneteenth. Those are things that starts with Ted Leonsis and the Monumental Group and goes all the way through the entire organization of Monumental Basketball. And can't thank them enough for their support.
Thank you, Tommy and Dr. Medina. Apologies if we did not get to your question. We had a lot of people on today. I got through a lot of questions. Again, we'll have Coach Brooks on tomorrow at noon. And then Bradley Beal and Thomas Bryan at 1:30 and 3 on Wednesday. Then the rest of the player schedule we'll send out from there. So thank you to everyone for participating today, and look forward to seeing you back on here tomorrow. Thank you. Again, if you need the recording of the call, please let us know.
Thank you very much.